Now we have our next panel discussion lined up on a really important topic, e-commerce versus traditional marketing. Let the debates begin. Such a relatable topic and so relevant, of course. Which one is better for your business, though, is going to be the magic question and the question of topic. Which one will help you grab maximum eyeballs? What are the pros and cons of each? Get answers to these questions and make sure you take notes. This is going to be a good one, guys. We've got a great panel of experts to help you as well with this. To initiate the discussions, I would like to call upon stage our moderator, Tom Oser, CEO of Pipeline Strategies Consulting. Please come on up.
Thank you. Thank you. Is this lab working? Can you hear me? Excellent. Well, panelists, why don't you come up, and then I'll introduce you as you're up here, because it's going to take a little time to come up. So all five come up, and I've got some suggestions on where to sit because of where you sit in the value chain. So Ali, grab the second chair here. Danielle, would you take the furthest chair over to the other side? And then is Lauren Petrullo here? Lauren, would you take the seat to the left of Danielle? And then you sit to the left of, to the right of Danielle. Go all the way down, Danielle. And then Lauren in the middle, and then Haley next to Ali, and then CJ. Either side, you can sit last at that table or first at this table. Boom, he made a decision.
Sit in the middle.
Sit in the middle. All right, there's a method to the madness here, is that we're here to talk about e-commerce and digital marketing versus traditional marketing, as if there was a difference. But it's instructive to think about traditional marketing in the brick and mortar world, perhaps, and think about marketing in the four P's, the fundamental P's. I think originally there were 12, but I can only remember 4. And those are product. What is the product that you're selling? Is it tangible or is it digital? And then there's the product and the placement. Where are you going to place it if it was a brick and mortar shop? Where are you going to place it on the shelf? Where are you going to place it in the store? Where are you going to place it in the distribution channel to be found most well? And then there's the pricing. And in the old world, along with the shelf spot, you had to have a price, and it was known, and it was there, and people would fight you tooth and nail if you got to the checkout counter and they wanted to charge something different. So very, very stable, very cemented pricing. And then promotion. How are you going to promote in the brick and mortar world? Signs within the store, billboards on the outside, broadcast in mass media in the local community. Go to digital, and we know that all the rules seem to fall apart. But those 4 things still have to be done. You've got to make intelligent decisions about your product. Where are you going to place it? How are you going to promote it? And so forth, and distribute. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to put my glasses on to do this. I'd like to introduce, this panel is amazing because it represents the whole value chain of marketing as we know it, and in particular in the digital domain. So first, on the far side, I've relegated Danielle all the way down to the far end, not because I don't like her, but because she's the most important, because from a marketing perspective, she's the consumer of the marketing. She's an entrepreneur. So Danielle, let me get this straight here. Danielle is the founder of the San Diego Acne Clinic, and she's the CEO of Clearstream Skincare. Clearstem, oh, she's gonna kill me because branding is everything. Clearstem Skincare. She's formulated a skincare line that is both anti-aging and anti-acne simultaneously. And she goes out, she formulates her own products, she brings them to distribution, she uses e-commerce to go out there, she does the whole deal. Next to her is Lauren Petrullo. Now, Lauren Petrullo is the founder and the CEO of Mongoose Media. And she's a professional services consultant, particularly concentrating on branding and placement. And she works with people like many of you in the audience, and even that's why I placed her next to Danielle, because I'm trying to put them together. Maybe she's got a new client over there. But Lauren's an expert in targeted marketing, personalization, and figuring out what works and what doesn't on a very personalized basis in the E stream. Next we have is CJ Terral. He's the CEO of Chatfully, a founder and CEO of Chatfully, who provides a platform to aggregate and standardize diverse messaging channels into a single seamless interface for sales pipelines operations. He's making complicated communications among sales professionals and all stakeholders more effective in managing the sales funnel and complex sales. So he's right there, and he's enabling all of your sales teams and the value chain and the funnel where it matters, and he's simplifying the world using technology to do that. He'll tell you more about that. And then we have Haiti Sperling. Haiti Sperling is she's the chief strategy officer for Pro America 360. And what Haiti does is she brings a true double-sided platform, e-marketplace to the market. And on one side of the platform, she's charging small and medium-sized businesses that have something to sell to very specific demographic and psychographic consumers on the other side. The small and medium-sized businesses that want to sell to these consumers pays for the privilege of being on the platform. On the consumer side, she's enabling like-minded people that are community-oriented and they have the same values in life to aggregate them there and allow them to work together, build community, and then be served by people that are particularly looking to serve them. It's a classic e-commerce platform story. And then finally, to my left is Ali Abbasi. He's the CEO and founder of Locomotive. Now, what they do at Locomotive, they have a software as a service platform that enables customers being directors, vice presidents of marketing, that have a big problem on their hands. They've got tons of media, they've got tons of platforms out there, and they've got to try to rationalize it. And so what they do at Locomotive is give you a platform to manage your media spend and your scheduling and to optimize getting the right spend through the right channel for the right segment that shows up there. Okay, that's why we've set up in this particular range, and now I'd like to get to the meat of the matter and actually hear from the experts in this value chain. So I'd like to start off with Danielle. Danielle, they're at they're at Stem Cell Research. They're at SkinStem. How do e-commerce brands explain complex products and value propositions without ever speaking to the customers?
That is a great question. Thank you for asking it.
I'm going to turn my phone off. And you know what? I'm not answering because it's from New Jersey.
Burn.
Anyone from New Jersey here?
Oh, I'm from New Jersey. I can say that.
So the question is, how do you convey a complex offering to people that you don't get to speak to? This question is particularly important for my company because when you are solving something as complex as acne, which has a lot of different triggers operating at once, communication and troubleshooting is so necessary. So the way that we have gone about it is utilizing platforms that are based on communication, mainly Instagram. And we do Instagram Lives, we do live Q&As, we do shared Instagram Lives with other people in the community in the wellness space that they're adjacent to our brand. Too much caffeine. So we like to utilize Instagram to really speak our message and do the live Q&A function has been really, really good for us, and also guesting on podcasts. Targeted podcasts versus traditional wide media buys or wide like radio ads. We specifically do certain podcasts that we know our demographic's gonna be listening to, and that has worked really well for us.
So Instagram is very much a real-time interaction, is that the case? Versus the podcast, which you can schedule for later listening and so forth?
Correct. A podcast is more evergreen, so people can come listen to it a year later or longer. But Instagram is a lot more interactive because when you do a live, you let your audience know when you're going to be on, and they can come and ask you questions, and you can answer it for them in real time and get that connection with people that are all over the world. And
you have a very sophisticated problem that you solve for your clients. and you've got a value proposition that's pretty complicated. So the Instagram gives you real-time immediacy, but the podcast allows you to dig down into some maybe esoteric stuff that has real value for the customers, and they need a longer listen.
That's absolutely correct. We can go into complex explanations of like digestion and acne or liver function and acne, things like that, where we are trying to fill the gap between what they can get on the internet and what they're not getting told in their dermatologist's office. So I take the conversations that I would be having at San Diego Acne Clinic, where I have an hour uninterrupted with someone, and on a podcast, we are able to disseminate that information with just one prompt from the host, and then steer the conversation and lay out the information in a way that I know the consumer who's listening would be asking in their own head, and we can answer the questions for them as if we are with them, even though in that instance we aren't. But then if they have specific questions like on how to use a certain product, that's when they then know to come to our Instagram live sessions, and they can just type in a question, we acknowledge them, we say, hey, thanks for joining, and then we answer their question right there for them. So using those two different channels to communicate with the audience has been fantastic for us.
Outstanding. Thanks, Danielle. Following on a little bit with the same theme, I'm going to go to Lauren and say, Lauren and I spoke very, very briefly before, but I know that we could go down the rabbit's hole on so many interesting areas of sophisticated marketing. But one thing, Lauren, that you shared with me was, you said, and I'm interested in how you work with clients on the skill set and then the insights of the hook and offer, which is an important marketing skill set that can get lost in bigger data and data analytics where people just go looking for numbers and manage by the numbers. Tell us how you work with clients with the hook and offer issue.
So with regards to the hook and offer, especially around digital marketing, because when we talked about this offline, the idea is that with iOS 14 and now iOS 15 coming up, there's so many changes that are happening in the digital marketing landscape that's making it more difficult for advertising efforts to be made. But despite all the challenges that we're being pressed with the different marketplaces that we're advertising on, going back to the basics of what the hook and the offer are, which has been foundational for traditional marketing, is something that we've been leaning in a lot more towards. So similar to what Vrinda was saying in the last speaking session, going into the heart of the message and delivering something of value, like hooking your end customer with something that's most interesting to them, and playing that into it is 90% of our effort now, compared to whereas a few years ago, we would be testing and trying all these different opportunities to buy traffic space, but finding what that hook is and what that offer is, because it's getting a lot of ad blindness, specifically to what Vrinda was talking about, making sure that you can stay up and have a relevant conversation to what your end user is looking like. So whatever your Danielle Q&A's live sessions are, whatever that is titled, it's allowing the end user to see like, yes, this specifically applies to me. And so having the hook and offer front end all that effort into what that is how we start our conversations when we kick off calls with clients. Because if you don't have an offer or something of value to me right away, it'll be hard to advertise what the USP, the unique selling points are.
So how do you work with clients to make a decision about whether or not this segment with this offer is going to have enough bang for the buck in order to invest in the time necessary to make a really good hook and offer, and you're willing to spend the time and the money to create that to make sure that there's enough return when it comes around? How do you wrestle through that with clients?
So as an agency, we're the outside perspective looking in. A lot of times clients and other brands will be so focused on what they do, and they know their product's the best and most amazing thing in the world, but sometimes it's complex and the end user needs, like we're in the 3-second Amazon Prime same-day delivery mentality. So a lot of times we'll just use our team, which is a very diverse team. I'm based in Orlando, Florida, but we have team members across 9 time zones. And we just literally do a temp check and say, like, is there any sex appeal to this offer? Would I react to this in any way, shape, or form? And a lot of times, like internally, I'll be called like the destruction queen, because I will say, hey, this sounds great to you, but will have no resonance with the community. And we say a lot of the time we have to start with curiosity. So if it's not curious or if it's not funny, similar to how, again, Vrinda was talking about like adding a sense of humor into whatever that language is, then we can start from there. But most of the time it takes like 20 or 30 rejected offers or phrasings before we can even dive into one that makes sense. So if I were to make a recommendation to anyone, it would be figure out something that your audience wants to ask questions about, because you want to start that conversation, especially if you're not in a brick and mortar place and you're online. Starting that conversation can lead to the conversion, and then like you have the live Q&As, you're able to discuss more complex ones. But how we determine if it has appeal is we'll do it within our team and make sure no one is connected to the brand to see if there's any sex appeal, and then we'll ask people in their targeted market.
Now, with the echo, I'm listening to hearing it echoing, so I missed. Did you say that you're the destruction queen, or what was that?
I'm the person that tells our clients that their baby is ugly. So like,
okay, the destruction queen. I just want to make sure I heard that right.
Someone will be like, can you evaluate my landing page? I'm like, this looks really cool. I know you spent a lot of time and energy on it, but like, where is your call to action? Where is the offer? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be taking. This looks really pretty, but it doesn't work on mobile. So I call people's babies ugly, but I get paid to do it.
Yeah, you get paid to do it. And so I just want to say, yeah, exactly. Do you hear this? Do you hear this? Lauren, I've just fallen in love with her as a consultant, and that she's willing to deliver the tough message, because that's what she's getting paid the bucks to do. Not to tell you what you want to hear and go down and waste money on that campaign that's going to be dead on arrival. So thanks very much for showing up in this vein. It's really cool, Lauren. Thanks a lot. The Queen of Destruction. Ladies and gentlemen, hire her immediately. All right, I'd like to move over. We'll come back. We'll do some more destruction, but
I can sit in the next seat if you want to ask me another.
And she's smart too. She's smart too. CJ, you're a master of messaging up and down the funnel, up and down the customer journey, and so forth. So let me ask you, what does it take for people to define and execute a digital strategy that makes clear the marketing and sales funnel and how it impacts people if they do that or don't do that well?
Sure. So when it comes to messaging, the first part is how do you even define messaging? I was mentioning to some people earlier, there's a lot of sophisticated techniques and tactics, or however you want to define it, but it's a matter of how you even define the words that you use first, because team alignment, client alignment, customer alignment on separate levels are always going to be different. They're always shifting because there's different types of topics that are coming up, different types of value systems that we assign to each word, and let alone the even syntactics, technical jargon for basically the order of words that we place on a screen, on a page, or on a wall. Messaging is about getting to the root. So the root for most people are their values, the single entity, the word, or the combination through a phrase of words. Knowing what that is key. Understanding that with your gut sometimes helps, but testing that rapidly online is what really works over traditional media, where you don't really know what that feedback loop is. When it comes to e-commerce, when it comes to SaaS or other forms of online selling, it works really well if you know the types of words to track, how to track them, and over what frequency of time, and knowing how to iterate that between A/B tests, knowing this type of segment is going to work with this particular word versus this type of segment, and what do they basically click on the most. So that's kind of a high level, but the idea is you got to kind of start there to know how to get to the lower levels. Once you get past these values, single words, or principles, more modes of action, single ways, I want to do this, or I like to buy this, for these reasons, starting with why, Simon Sinek, which was mentioned earlier. Then you can start to expand into more topical references. What topics do they like? What pages do they like on social media? And other sorts of branched off topics that will more likely change over time, but are still rooted in that core value that they have. When you have this core value, you can find more people that are like them because they're going to resonate with it most, because they're clicking on it most. There's advertisements you place or the posts you place. So I would say that would be the fundamentals to start with, to understand what our messaging is and then how we're understanding if it even resonates with people.
So let's go back and as many people as are in the audience, there might be that many different definitions of the stages of a sales and a marketing funnel. But let's just put a few of them out there and talk about your impression of how does the messaging differ between one and another part of the stage. If we think that the first stage of the funnel is bringing the prospects and the consumers to awareness, and then helping them, second stage is they're entering into active consideration, and then the third would be making the purchase.
Yep.
And then the fourth, post-purchase, customer relationship development and ongoing into the customer lifetime value, right? So tell us, just pick any two that you want that you can demonstrate for us. What's the difference in how we have to think about the messaging in some of the stages?
Sure. So to quickly build on that too, I define it in 4 stages for pre-revenue before they've handed you any money or given you any, they've signed up even as a user, non-paying. You have basically contacts. These are people who have viewed something or listened to something on a podcast, et cetera. They've not expressed any interest to engage with their brand, but they're simply there in a database. Then you have the next level, which is a marketing qualified lead. These are people who have expressed interest one way. You have no idea if they're willing to buy or if they can buy. You haven't qualified them yet, but they've at least wanted to learn more. Then you have more of a sales qualified lead. You already have that qualification in, but now you know. They have the money to do it. They're ready to do it. They're the right person to do it. That's the basics. And then at that point, now they have, assuming they're going to the next level or next conversion stage, they have become a customer, paying, or a user, non-paying. It helps just kind of stand on the balance sheet the differences between the two, but basically they're using what you offer. Those would be the pre-revenue stages, but in terms of messaging, just understanding based on if they've expressed intent, but you have no idea if they can or will buy or when they will buy, understanding that selling them at that moment is not relevant, right? You don't want to sell them at that point, you want to educate them. You want to give them a little bit more ideas into how they could potentially use this, not where's the credit card. And when they're at an SQL, sales qualified stage, well, maybe it's about time, but it also depends on the segments. The primary ones being B2B, selling to businesses, selling to consumers, or university or government. Everyone, they're all humans, but they all have different types of buying intent, different timelines of which they purchase, et cetera. But going back to the messaging that I was mentioning earlier, just knowing what they're looking after, what types of words do they keep using in their timelines in terms of time frames they want to buy it at, or other types of people that they typically reference to in their teams, what paperwork needs to be signed, et cetera, and in what order. When you go to businesses and governments, it's a lot more complex, but typically consumers are, if you can convince them in the moment, they will probably buy, as long as they trust you and they believe that it can really help them on their daily activities or livelihood activities.
Great. Thanks, EJ. Next, I'd like to go over to Haiti. Now, I mentioned before that Haiti is the chief strategy officer, and she brings an actual e-commerce marketplace to reality in a two-sided platform. So Haiti, we talked about a lot of different things, but one thing that really struck a chord was when you helped formulate the question, when, if ever, would it be advantageous to move away from traditional marketing and adopt a digital marketing only approach to e-commerce?
Well, I think there's 2 parts to that. One, are you ready? Right? So is your brand ready? Can people see your brand on a subconscious level within 30 seconds, understand, do I identify with this entity, with this organization, with this business platform? The other one would be emotion, right? So not when you want to move into a digital only, can you connect emotionally with people? I think Zig Ziglar said it best, right? I'm pretty sure everybody probably chant along with me, but people don't remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel, right? So when you're looking at switching over to digital only, and for the record, we use traditional marketing heavily. Okay, so I'm not here saying we do it because I'm just going through the question of, because I feel that with the generations that are happening, there is a trend going there. So I think, and the second part would be the generational marketing. Now, we actually have more data where we can really dive into generational marketing. You have your baby boomers, right? So the baby boomers, they're very high spenders. They spend a lot on travel. They are a segment that you wouldn't think would be interested in digital only, but because of the pandemic, when you look at the research, they are really adapting to the no contact, to the order, the delivery, the buy and pick up. So that's one segment you can think of. And we're looking at just general marketing in general. After that, you have your Z generation, right? So when you're looking at your Z generation, and Z generation right here, right? We're high spenders as well, right? So with your generation, you have your high spenders. They really focus more on reviews. So they're more of the ones that would post reviews on Yelp or Amazon or et cetera. Then after that, you have your millennials, right? So your millennials, they're more into the e-commerce platforms that are around convenience. I said, I don't want to walk my dog, you walk my dog. That's why I pay you to walk my dog, right? So that's the kind of e-commerce base that really connects with that generation. And then from there, you also have your Z generation, right? The new generation. Now with the Z generation, they're new to the workforce, right? They're starting to get into the workforce. But when you look at it, they actually have a higher spending. They do more transactions transactionally on e-commerce sites than all of the other generations combined, or not combined, but when you compare them. So I think when you're looking at when do we move digitally only, if you have a client base that's very heavy in Z and very heavy in baby boomers, I would recommend to start looking in that direction.
It's really interesting. You provide this marketplace, this platform, and all the businesses on one side trying to get to these different demographics that you present, that you aggregate for them. Each company, for the time being, in their relationship to your platform, you're their e-commerce channel, and you're their funnel. What does the platform do in terms of advising, selling them services? Do you become part of their marketing team? Do you give them strategies to think about, and do they expect that of you, and they take your advice, or are they free to use your platform randomly, however sophisticated or unsophisticated as they may be?
Yeah, so it's because our platform is value-based, and it does connect people on an emotional level, we have to be careful to make sure it's organic. So the one thing you don't want to do if you are looking, or if you also have your own e-commerce platform, is you don't want to be that bait and switch where people sign up for you and then you're just bombarding them with like, well, we need to update your social media and we have to do this and we can charge you for that. So it's something that it's kind of on a case-by-case basis, because on our platform, because it's so specific, we don't just let anybody on our platform. They actually do have to be vetted out. So during that vetting process, we're able to see, okay, you know what, this person might need help with their website, this person might need help with this, they might need help with recruiting, but that's something that our salespeople are able to stretch it out, if that will, right? You don't want people that once they're actually approved on our site, they're excited, they're connecting with that specific customer base that they want to connect to. All of a sudden they get bombarded with all of these pricing and all of these different options. So it needs to be an organic process, but kind of just led by our sales team.
Outstanding. Yeah, you don't want to sell out your consumer constituents that you've built up trust, common values, and so forth. So that's one platform. Another platform is Instagram that Danielle called out. Danielle also uses the podcast as another platform for her marketing. Do you use Facebook?
Yes, so all the ads that we run are actually Facebook and Instagram, and the Facebook Ads Manager will optimize it for each platform. Mm-hmm. We do have a Facebook presence because you kind of have to, but we mainly focus on Instagram because that is where our demographic mainly hangs out. Yeah.
So we've got at least three or four platforms that you're using. How many people here are in charge of marketing and you're using only one platform? I don't see any hands. How many people are using at least three? Keep your hands up. 4, 5. Okay, there's still a couple hands up at 5. I have to think your day-to-day life is nuts and you're here just to grab some sanity back for some me time. And I admire the fact that you're in this room and not out at that pool that I passed by coming in here. But the reason why I ask this question is because the next question is for Ali. Ali's got a software as a service where he's intent on figuring out this cross-platform spend and play and then rationalizing. So Ali, what are in this world of, or in this context of e-commerce versus traditional, what is your perspective on platforms? What's important there in this context?
So I'm going to address this a little bit more tomorrow in the keynote session about the future of marketing technology. But to summarize it, I always like this quote from Henry Ford. You know, he said that half of my marketing dollars go to waste, but I just don't know which half, right? And so, you know, it made sense when he said this. It was during the time we did a lot of traditional marketing, your billboards, radio, you know, newspapers and so forth. And now we're in the digital age, you know, the e-commerce sphere, and we say, well, that's maybe not a problem anymore because, you know, we have data, we have insights, they track impressions, users and so forth. But the reality is there's still a lot of wasted dollars out there. And that problem hasn't been addressed. So we have a lot of information as to how people interact with our ads. We have a lot of information about who we're targeting and so forth. But how much are we wasting really, right? And so when you incorporate the sales funnel into this, and you say from awareness to consideration to purchase and post-purchase, what campaign for which consumer on which platform is helping move them along that channel? And when they move along, do I pause the other ones? When do I pause them? And where's the bottleneck? So do they, you know, is most of my money being spent on consideration? What is causing it? And which platform is working? Because one of the things I've realized in my years marketing for various sectors is these platforms, they all tell you how great they are. Nobody's going to say, oh, I'm sorry, you wasted your money. This didn't really work out. You know, they don't tell you that. They give you reports like, hey, look at how many people we've reached, and look how great the impressions are, and this. And the other thing is, everybody claims that revenue. So there was time we were working with a client, and we're like, there's not even that much revenue. When you combine it all, like you have millions, and you don't. And so we said, you know, we have to address this, and the way to address it is integration, making them work together in a sales funnel. So from a marketer's perspective, when we meet with CEOs and executives and marketing directors, vice presidents, they wanted to know, you know, what campaign or message is working for which stage of the funnel, and they want to have a visual about how that works. So, you know, the LinkedIns, your Facebooks, you know, your MailChimps, all of them combined, what does that look like for me visually, and where are they going, and when do I pause one campaign and start the other? And there's millions of dollars there, depending on how much you spend.
Easily,
Yeah.
Easily. Each one of those is it's like a boat. A boat is a hole in the water that you pour money into. That's what these are. These channels are like going out and buying a brand new boat. It's the opportunity to just pour money into it if you're not thinking about what you're doing every step of the way. You know, so let's get specific. I'd like to go back through the chain again and think about very specifically, what surprise, what interesting finding do you come, what real life situation, Danielle, you as a entrepreneur and marketer yourself, as the one bringing products to market, and everyone else here in marketing enablement, Danielle, do you have a particular story that you got it right? Something you just didn't expect, you did, and it started just working. You didn't even expect it.
Oh, that's a good one. We've had a couple of major wins lately. Let me think of one that would be most applicable.
And by the way, that could have been a formulation too. You might have had a sleeper of a formulation. It doesn't have to be technical e-commerce.
All of our formulas are phenomenal, but we had one that was actually an accident, that ties in perfectly to your question. So I wanted to formulate a serum that would, the theme around it, it's called Bounce Back. And the theme around it was to reverse the stress, the skin damage of the stress caused of COVID, because everyone had like mask knee, They weren't getting their facial treatments. Self-care was kind of out the window. Everyone was like drinking a lot more, and just things were awry in people's health and personal life, and it showed up on their skin. So I wanted to create something that would essentially help us bounce back from that. And it wound up being a massive success. So I like to add as many actives as I can to a product, and I do it in percentages that are far higher than other brands do. Like, for example, a vitamin C serum, a company can market that, and it could be 0.01% of the formula. And this happens all the time. So what I like to do is say, what's the maximum I could put in there? And then I do that, and then you get to your cost, you do your cost analysis, and then you charge accordingly based on the ideal formula. So basically, long story short, I put so many actives into this bounce back serum that it came back too thick. It wouldn't go through the pump. So I was like, what do we do with this? And then I was like, ooh, but it feels really good around the eyes. It wound up being our new eye gel. So I had them thicken it a little bit more, add a couple of products, or a couple of ingredients, that are specifically for the eye area to brighten it and clear the lymphatic, inflammation that appears there. And voila, we had an eye serum. And then on top of that, the Bounce Back serum did go into production. It was supposed to be a limited edition thing because it's expensive. It's a $98 item, and it's more of an anti-wrinkle benefit than it is an acne benefit. So we're like, we don't even know if our community wants this or wants to pay for something at this level. Sure enough, they did. It totally worked, and the peptides that we use are so firming that people are using it instead of Botox. So now it's our no Botox serum, and it has taken on a whole life of its own.
Outstanding. And there's a secret to marketing. Whenever you're not sure about a product, add a 0 to the price and see what happens.
Honestly, though.
Beautiful, beautiful. And what was the favorite e-channel that really pushed that bounce back?
The favorite what?
Which of your e-channels or of your platforms really pushed you saw the response from the market?
The biggest response we had, promoting it on Instagram, yes, but it gets diluted because that's how we talk about everything on Instagram. We actually signed up for a service called Attentive, and it's an SMS marketing service where you can, people opt in with their phone number, they get a code, very standard now on every e-commerce site. But we did a blitz campaign where it was every 3 days in a row, we were sending targeted messages about this serum. So the first one was about the ingredients and what it does. The next one was about just reviews. And then the third one was a code to use it. And we did so many sales. That day, I think we did $12,000 just on that one day from that text campaign.
Congratulations.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Great example. Great example. Lauren, how about yourself? What client situation, whether you were being destructive or not, what client situation the client was surprised, and you were even kind of surprised the way that the situation turned out using a particular channel or something?
Well, she fell out of her chair. She thought her bank account had been robbed, but reverse robbed. So a client of ours, they were doing about $400,000 a year in sales. They're a beverage mix company. So you add this syrup to your coffee or to your cocktails, and positioning her in the destruction kind of way. For her, this is a brand she made out of her garage. And had done well. She had been placed in a few brick and mortars, and most of her transactions were done in store and to the B2B level. And we came and hey, we really want to introduce a diversification of your marketing channels. And we did some Facebook ads, some Instagram ads, and our first destruction meeting, if you will, she was saying that her brand had so much authority that we could just stick this logo on and everyone will know it's the bee's knees because it's available in large box stores. I disagreed, and I said, let's leverage other brands that really do have that brand power, and we leveraged their colors and tried to do indirect comparisons, and it was something she was quite afraid of, but what we had done is this low-calorie syrup, we had done theirs versus ours, and had done the hook of why spend 17 times more why consume 17 times more calories in the morning for breakfast when you can have this for 0 calories. And she did in 1 month what she had done in a year. So that worked really well, even though I had to tell her that, yes, your baby's pretty, it's just not very famous. It's not Instagram famous yet. And so when we had done this, we really went in heavy on the Instagram and Facebook platform, is the channel that we found the most success in, and that's continued. That's a 2-year-old campaign that they're still using and incorporating in their diversified channels, including TikTok and Snap. So that was just leveraging someone else's brand to elevate theirs.
Yeah, you know, in the last session, the keynote right after lunch, the horse, the Clydesdales, Budweiser, the Clydesdales, they show up every year. And it doesn't, well, I guess it has because I haven't seen them in a while, but it doesn't get old. And what you're saying is that you had not exactly
They're in
an
Orlando,
evergreen.
by the way. Those
Pardon me?
Clydesdales are in Orlando.
I couldn't hear.
Those Clydesdales are in Orlando. They were taking a vacation at the Happiest Place Center. Not happiest, it was SeaWorld, but close enough.
Yeah, they get tired of the snow too. But think about the evergreen nature of that campaign that you did. That's just you have to watch out for those, because if you're getting the message right, if you're getting the hook and the offer right, and it's generically right, it's not just kitschy and of the moment, properly nurtured, these can go on for a long time.
Yeah, we were able to actually change it. So we had been leveraging Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts because that was where individuals were spending just as much on their coffee, a specialized coffee. And we're saying, hey, you can make 30 cups at home for the same price point of having an expensive Starbucks. And then you get to save 6 bajillion calories. So then we started making seasonal components. So then we had the pumpkin spice latte comparison, the peppermint mocha comparison, and then bringing in other brands. Because there was quite a bit of ad fatigue, because you can only show, well, you're spending $20,000, you're going to end up showing it to the same people over and over again.
Outstanding. I'm going to take a time break. We're at exactly, I think, 2:30. How much time? We have 10 minutes. I just want to go through CJ, and then we'll take a couple questions from the audience. CJ, real world specific surprise to you in the channel.
Sure. So mine's different than others in terms of making a powerful product simple. Don't get me wrong, I love creating content and promoting it, but one of the most powerful ways I've found to get the word out is actually through advocacy, making people love what you offer, whatever that is. Chatfully being a communication platform, we found a really cool fit last year, actually a year and a half ago, and it was with one of our first customers. And this was just a very simple referral. They got on the platform, it's a nurses union. And this was actually before COVID started. And they were very traditional. They just made personal phone calls and sent emails, but they were getting less and less responses. And they saw our platform, they didn't totally understand the full potential of it. We do SMS at scale, we bring in Facebook messaging and Twitter and web chat all in the one interface. And so it's really convenient for a lot of sales and service teams to just want to respond faster, send faster, et cetera. But they were totally new to this. They were still using fax. So we had to educate them on it a little bit. And we didn't see them using the platform a lot in the first month or two, and we asked them why. Well, they said they needed to do specific tagging. And I know this is very specific to our case, but the message I'm trying to get across is making your product, whatever you offer, usable. It may be the best thing in the world, but people don't know how to use it for their particular case. It makes a world of difference. Here's a real-world example. We changed the tagging feature by making it one less click, meaning they clicked into a page and then they saw it. Beforehand, they clicked into that page, they didn't see it. They had to click another button. I know it sounds simple, but by that one change, they have 5,000 nurses in their nurses union. And they started using it like gangbusters when we did that. And it was in January of last year. And because they got used to it beforehand, they actually used us as their default communication platform for 5,000 nurses across California. And it was one of the most proud examples I've had, at least recently in my career, of how we built something that could allow people to deliver real-time information for hospital use, especially during COVID. And it was just really simple tweaks. And it's how we got there, is just asking, how can we make this more useful for you? How do you go about doing your work and communicating on a day-to-day basis? It didn't take rocket science. It didn't take sophisticated surveys. We're just talking to people on a very simple basis and getting to know what they want. And we made it happen. And they continue to use us today. They're actually one of our happiest clients, among others, that we're adding on too. But again, whatever I have a simple phrase I keep in mind for this, for use. Is it usable? And then is it useful? In that order. Is it usable and useful? And we follow it every time. and we see higher engagement, we see more revenue, we see higher communication and faster communication. We have people logging on practically every single day. It's amazing. We don't even really promote to them. They just do it themselves because they love what we offer, because we ask them. So that would be my message.
Yeah, a really powerful message that it's not rocket science. It's that one click that can just stop progress. And if you pay attention to it, you could just open the floodgates. So Haiti, how about yourself? What specific well, there's too many people on your consumer side, but do you have a specific surprise or win on the business side?
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow up CJ. I would like to switch seats. That touched my heart. But I guess our delightful surprise was we found a better way to track traditional marketing. So on our platform, we created a affiliate program. So what we did is we took the base price of our product. We went ahead, added 25% up, so this way we can give everybody affiliate codes, because our platform is not just about the users and of course also the small business owners, but we want everybody to win. We want everybody to win in that token of specifically commerce. So in creating, in being very heavy with an affiliate program, everybody gets a code. I mean, you get a code and you get a code. It's under your seat, everyone gets a code. You can have 5 codes, I don't care, as many codes as you like, right? So, but by doing that, we started, it really helped us understand where we need to spend our time and our money. We actually found out that there were some really big organizations, there were some really big companies that with them it was either A, that they have a lot of users or they have a lot of potential, but they weren't utilizing that traditional marketing, right? The booth wasn't in the right place. They weren't sending out the emails at the right time. It was just little things like that we were able to kind of pick up. And on the other side of that, we realized where are we going to spend our money, because we had smaller entities or individual people or groups that they just blew it up. They just completely got out of the water. So we actually gave them more resources to help them with that. Now it is, again, a little different than digital marketing, right? I can't, I don't know, what device you were on and what part of the house you were in and whatnot when you actually purchased it. But what it did is it gave us a really good idea of where do we need to focus our intention to help this specific segment grow.
And it was interesting because you made it possible for everybody to become marketers with the affiliate code.
Yep.
And it brought them all immediately into the domain of e-commerce. Very interesting, very interesting. Ali, how about yourself? Any specific examples?
Yeah, I remember one where we were working with a partner in the education sector, and they were selling continuing education courses. And for those who don't know, continuing education courses, like, about any topic, you just take a course here and there, you don't have to sign up for a degree. And we were doing the marketing, and we realized that, we're reaching good audiences, we're seeing, the impressions are good, the clicks are fine, there's a lot of people that come to the website, and then we, use tools like Crazy Egg, and we see, they're interacting with the site, and then we see they're putting these courses, in their cart, and but the conversions weren't happening. So we did what every marketer tends to do. It's like, hey, more prospecting, and throw that money in there. And sure enough, we said, we need to look at that funnel, going back to that sales funnel, about, well, what is happening and why are we not getting these conversions if we have so much interaction and so many courses are in the cart? And we started looking at the application, and we said, okay, so that's what we looked at, and we realized that they were asking for a social security number. And I wouldn't give somebody my social security number if I want to take a course, right? And who wants to do that, right? So we realized that there was an administrator who thought it's a nice to have information, again, with the data, like get more data, but it's sometimes it's simple things. So we went and we tried to convince them to take it out. Sure enough, there was a big no to that. So, took some arm twisting, and we finally got them to take that out. The very next sales cycle, when the enrollments opened, we saw an uplift of at least 20% in revenue. That's about over $12 million that was sitting there. So just imagine dumping marketing dollars, trying to bring in more prospects, and not converting the ones that were sitting in that stage of the funnel was increasing our spend, lowering our return. The lifetime value was coming down. The return on investment was coming down. But sure enough, we just saw that funnel through. They got over $12 million more, and just it was that simple thing. So that's why I always talk about funnel management.
Another single detailed thing that you change. Now, this is big. I mean, one extra click, that was big. But going after my social security number just to sign up and take a course. And actually, my wife and I just came in and checked into the hotel before, and the woman up front was saying, oh, use the MLife sign up. I said, no. I was here a month ago, and they wanted my birth date and my social security number because they thought I wanted to gamble. She goes, no, I'll walk you through it. Just give me your credit card, and you'll get your keys. And so she was the equivalent of what you just did. By removing the demand of this personal information that there's no need for it, it was a major stumbling block. Listen, we are at the end of the time. It's 2:38. There's 2 minutes. Is there anybody with a pressing question? You've got the whole value chain here. If you want to ask one pressing question. And if not, I see a double-handed, is that Scott? Yes. Scott, I met you before. How are you doing? What do you got?
This question is primarily for Danielle, but anybody can answer. What are you looking at in terms of size of podcast audience?
What are you looking at in terms of the size of the podcast audience was the question.
That is a fantastic question. So we actually just had our biggest and most powerful podcast interview ever last week, and it took us 6 months to get on this podcast. It was a paid opportunity. It was over $10,000, which is not typical to get on a podcast, but this one is literally our target demographic. So we wanted to go with them because not only is their audience huge, but they have a cult-like following, and that's mainly what we look for is, do people trust this host to bring them information? Like, for example, Tim Ferriss, he's like one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He's one of the few people I actually listen to. Like, take his advice, no questions asked. So we want to look for people that bring that level of authenticity and excellence to their audience, and that they're known for that. So we choose our podcast interviews based on that metric. This particular one we were on, it's called the Almost 30 podcast. In it, yeah, they're big. So it actually went so well that they fast-tracked our episode. It was supposed to launch on September 23rd. They fast-tracked it to the 15th of this month and offered to do an IG Live with us, because it went so well. So for audiences for situations like that, where they have such a dialed-in community and it's our target demographic, that's what we look for. But then we've also done smaller podcasts where it might be someone new, but who's in the wellness space, who's speaking the message that we want to also broadcast. So so sometimes it's us helping them by us guesting on theirs. So it really comes down to alignment, and that's the key thing. And I think alignment's the key thing with marketing in most channels.
Great question, Scott. Great answer, Danielle. If anyone wants to sell Danielle anything, advertise with Ferriss. She listens to him. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a great panel. Thank you very much for the time.